Welcome to episode 1 of Eldredge Extra. Ian Nicholas alongside Dylan Pescatore and Foster Nicholas. And we have a great guest to start things off with. Former Orleans manager, and now in the 101st season of the Cape League, it's new man in charge, John Castleberry. John,
Yeah, well, yeah.
congrats.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, guys. I really do. We'll see. Hopefully, I don't get impeached here the first year. So I'm trying to make sure I try to get through it all, and very excited about doing it. It's been one of those things that I've kind of wanted to do, getting into my scouting career and then making the next step into retirement and the whole bit. So I'm really excited to be part of the league again.
But you're in Alabama right now, right? You're on the move. You're still doing your thing.
Yeah, I'm still scouting. I've got a great scouting director, Mike Holmes, who unfortunately played at Chatham, and he did coach at Brewster, which what I have to put up with that all the time. But he's a great guy, and I'm gonna go one more year, maybe two, but probably only one more year. And he was really more excited about me putting my name in than I was, and I was excited about it. So I'm lucky who I work for with the Giants. It's been a great run. And Andrew Lang was great about it, and we're working around all the things. We're doing like you guys, you're out. We're doing a little more Zoom than I would like to do, but we've had meetings in person, and it's been really responsive. I mean, in positive ways, and trying to keep that through this first year, and then we'll see how it ends up. But it's exciting, that's for sure.
John, we thank you for coming on, and we got to start off with this. What was the process like? And you mentioned it, you had some excitement putting your name in the hat. What was it like going through the process, going through the interview process for such a tough job to get? And also, what was it like getting that message that you were going to be the next commissioner?
Well, it was a combination of the West Wing and Hunger Games. So if you can only imagine that. So they had a nominating committee. I did that. And obviously Eric Zamuto, who was there, and I know Eric, but I don't know Eric, personally. So I talked to some people about it, Sue Horton and Mary Henderson and a couple other people in the league. And I said, hey, I really would like to do this. And I think I can help out in a lot of different ways because of my experience and contacts all over the country and at all levels of the game. And so I put my name in. They did the interview in November. They were supposed to, they had the interview committee, which they did a great job. It was really good. I kind of laughed at them when I first got on there. I told them, I said, well, this is the first interview I've done since 1983. So it was kind of a little bit strange. But it went really well. I mean, they were attentive, and they wanted to make the right decision. And so what they do at that point, after they have the committee, the nominating committee selects, they put you on a slate. And so sometimes that slate can be challenged, and sometimes it just goes through real smooth. So Eric, and which is fine, Eric. So we had to have the executive meeting. I was put on the slate. The executive meeting was January 13th. And the way that you can kind of challenge that is you can nominate somebody from the floor at the meeting. So I went to the meeting, and I was going to go to the meeting anyway, obviously, but I was there, and I kind of knew it was going to happen. And sure enough, they nominated Eric from the floor, bring him back. And I was already nominated, obviously, on the slate. And they had a secret ballot vote and with the executive committee, and I ended up winning. So it was good. It was weird. For me, it was weird, because I've never had to go through that. But in the long run, I think I think I can offer more. I shouldn't say more. I can offer a lot that maybe Eric just couldn't get to just because he hadn't been in the game. I've been in the game for 40 some years on college and pro side and everything you can think of. So yeah. So it was weird. It was strange. It was fun. I look back on it, but it was like I said, it was like the West Wing. I mean, Mary and Sue and a bunch of people. I mean, it was like I was running for office, which I guess I was, when I think about it, but like a real office. So, but it was fun. It was good.
Well, obviously, congratulations on getting that, John, but
Thank you.
curious, through that process and your experience, how does that kind of set you apart? And are there any immediate ideas that you had about changes to the league in the future?
Well, I think number one, the one thing I would like to say, I had to kind of work at calling people up just to, I mean, I was there in 88, numbers retired, New Orleans, the whole bit. But a lot of people don't know who I am. I mean, that's 30, 40, 35, 40 years ago. So I made calls to a lot of the people, just introducing myself, and even the people that were kind of behind Eric. I just said, "Hey, look, I can't tell you what's going to happen, but this is what I think I can do. This is what I can bring to the table, and something different, some outside thoughts." So one of the things that I found, which was really, it was kind of cool, really, everybody, GMs and presidents that I talked to, they really care about the league. They love this league. And, usually, and you get a couple people, woe is me, the league's going to go under in 5 years. It's not, boom. But I'd say 95% of them, they want what's best for this league. And that was the most impressive thing. I mean, they were great. I mean, I was just expecting to hear some bad stuff. And, it was great. And the thing that I can offer is, obviously, I understand the pro side. I understand what the professional people want, but the college coaches that I know are some of the best in the land. So Chip Hale played for me at Arizona, for example. Gary Gilmore at Coastal, national champions, are a friend of mine. Brian O'Connor at Michigan, at Virginia, is a friend of mine. Sully at Florida. I mean, these are guys that make. Tom Walter was a GA of mine at GW, graduate assistant Tom Walter at Wake. So every level, I mean, I had, first I wasn't sure if we could have people call, and then they said, yeah, you can do that finally. So I had GMs call, scouting directors, 6 or 7 coaches, 3 of them or 2 of them won national titles. I could have had a bunch more. So with that should kind of give you an idea of the context that I have. So the ideas that maybe we can navigate through some of the issues that the league has, and we can't control a lot of things. I've got people going, well, why don't you, can you take care of the portal? Well, no, that's the NCAA. That ain't me. But we have to find a way of talking to college coaches and figuring out what they can do, and having the pro people kind of help us out too in a lot of ways. And most of the guys I talked to were all affiliated with the league at some point. But the issues are they're not simple. They're big issues, but it's basically the portal, the draft, and the NIL. And those things are issues that we have to learn to navigate. And that's kind of with Andrew Lang. Andrew Lang's brilliant. So, he went to Fordham, our president went to Fordham, younger guy, is a lawyer from Fordham, and played baseball for Fordham and coached at Fordham, and then played a little independent ball. So he has a real good feel, and was the GM for Wareham for a while. So he has a really good feel. So I think it's, and I think I've helped him already in just talking to people and getting answers on some questions that he might, he just doesn't have all the contacts that maybe I have. But he's outstanding. I mean, the whole group has been really, really supportive and really good. But yeah, those are the issues. We got to navigate it. And I think we're going to make mistakes. But we're going to try to get through it as best we can. I'm not perfect. I've already probably screwed up a couple things just by getting ahead of the game and trying to be too fast. I'm trying this year to more absorb things a little bit. A lot of the things that are in place for this year have already been put in place. They were put in place in the fall. So I'm kind of tweaking, and with Andrew, we're trying to tweak some things like the bylaws, and eventually in the manual, the playbook, and which is the most important thing for me and what I do on the side of on the commissioner's side is the manual. So it's a work in progress. It's a lot, and I'm not trying to ramble here, but just so you get an idea, it's a lot more than I thought. I'll put it that way. It's a lot. I mean, I'm on the phone. My wife says, I can't believe it. I'm on the phone constantly, and I'm a verbal guy. So the texting can be misread a lot of times, and tones. And I like talking to people and trying to get their thoughts and listen to them. And I try to keep in contact with the field managers right now. call them. I'm just going to try to have a Zoom, but I don't know how to do Zoom. Maybe you guys can help me with that. And then, but you know, we have a second GM meeting coming up, and so we had that first one in February. We have one coming up on Monday, and then have one every month. And then I try to go in person. Right now, I'm going to try to make the executive meeting so I can represent the commissioners and the baseball and the franchises in the meeting too. So and it's kind of a long-winded answer, but those are the issues that we're trying to get through, and hopefully we can do that.
Yeah, the college baseball landscape has changed a lot since you were managing Orleans when they were the Cardinals back in the 80s. But hey, baseball is still baseball, and you've got a reputation in this sport that I think when you had those conversations with people that you were introducing yourself to for the first time, definitely served you well. You mentioned absorbing information on the job now as the commissioner of the entire league, but when you kind of got your first big break in baseball, at least on the national level, by coaching the Orleans Cardinals in the 80s, what was the biggest lesson that you learned from your time there? Obviously, you won a championship, so it seems like you learned and you won, but what was your biggest takeaway?
Well, the Cape, and this is the other reason, really, the main reason I want to come back. The Cape gave me my first opportunity, just like you said, and so it gave me a chance to, you know, do what I'm doing. And my life, you know, really is because of the Cape. And I call them the Big Four in Orleans, and you young people don't know who they are, but you've probably heard of them. But you had Russ Ford and Ed Mooney and Dave Mulholland and Dave Mitchell. These guys were the neatest. I mean, they were, you know, a couple of them were World War II guys, you know, from the greatest generation. And they were the neatest people I've ever met in my life. They were, and it's even emotional talking about them because they changed my life. So they gave a young guy a chance to coach, you know, and I try to get back to them and Orleans, the community of Orleans at that time, a winning product, you know, and kind of did it in at that time, a modern way. Not, you know, we didn't have all the stuff they have now, but just the psychological part of it, the teaching part of it. And even though they were coming from different schools and it was summer ball, we wanted to make sure that they enjoyed their summers, that when they got done with their careers, wherever that may lead them, that they would come back with their families and enjoy Orleans and enjoy that regional, you know, the Cape region. And it's pretty remarkable that that is always set in the back of my mind. And that's something that this league can never lose. You know, the players are the most important part of this whole process. And that's where I kind of learned that from those guys. They were awesome. And it's led out to Sue Horton. You know, I mean, she's the next wave, and Kelly's done a great job there. And even the guys before Kelly that managed there, you know, I helped a lot of those guys get that job, and they had success, but I always tried to make sure they were good people and they understood what everything was about. So I think I'm making sense on that, but that was more important than the winning, was the people. It really was. And, you know, hardest thing for me to do when I went into pro ball was leave Orleans. It was harder than leaving GW, believe it or not. And it was a big part of my life.
As a Firebird manager, you coached a lot of superstars, and one that kind of stands out is, of course, Hall of Famer Frank Thomas. So what do you remember about him? What do you remember, like you said, about the people that you coached? And you saw these players at 18, 19, 20, and they end up being, you know, Major League Baseball superstars. Did you see that happening? Did you kind of know that was gonna, did you have a prediction there? And how was it coaching these guys?
Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned that, because I was talking to another scout. He played for the Yankees and he got to AAA. It was yesterday. I was at Florida State game, and we were talking, and he was talking about, here I am in the Major League dugout or clubhouse, and here's Mickey Mantle walking around, and then here's Don Mattingly, and here's, you know, Whitey Ford. He's just, and I never got an autograph. And I looked at him, I said, you know, it's crazy, because here I'm on the Cape and I'm managing these guys, and here I got Frank Thomas, and I've got JT Snow, and you know, Chip Hale, and you know, they were kids, and I was kind of a kid too, I guess. And I just said, you know, you guys got to get it. You don't think of them playing in the big leagues at that point, which sounds kind of funky. Even Frank, you knew he was going to be good, you know, and Frank had his issues too. Frank wasn't a saint by any means. So, but like JT Snow was one of my favorite guys to coach, and They were all good. Mike Ignatiak, who pitched for me on the championship club and pitched for 2 years there and pitched in the big leagues. But you just don't think of that at the time, and I don't know if that makes sense, but the Orleans Cardinals were just kind of the Orleans Cardinals. You were developing for these guys it's a microcosm of what professional baseball is at the minor leagues. You're playing your 40 game schedule, and you're playing with a wood bat. And back then, we were the first and only league to use wood bats. That was a big deal. And I think that put the Cape into a different level of summer leagues, because Alaska was kind of the bigger league at that time. And once they jumped to wood bats in 85, I think, or 84, it just kind of made it. I mean, everybody wanted to come to the Cape because they were preparing themselves to play professional baseball. And so that's kind of what it was. And it was a microcosm. I mean, it's not the same, but it was kind of and it still is. And I think people have to realize that, it's like you guys said, it's a different generation, or it's a different thing. I mean, back then the guys had to work, they had to have jobs, they had to pay the rent. Here now they have to have, they don't have to have jobs. Parents are usually covering it for them. They go lift weights, they're working out all the time. You know what I mean? They're preparing for their careers, and which is a good thing. That's just the way it kind of has trickled up. But it's a big deal to play in the Cape. So I was fortunate to be part of that, and some good players.
And then you've kind of seen that on the development side as an executive and someone who's scouting. What does a player playing on the Cape, or with Orleans in particular, maybe give to a professional ball club when you look at it from a scouting perspective?
When we're in the draft room, it is huge. It is huge. I mean, because, and I guess maybe my experience, I mean, that was probably, I mean, they joke around and I'd be in the draft room and I'd bring up Cape stuff and they go, gee, many crickets, what are you doing? Right? But we would be able to find, players react different to different coaches and play, you know what I'm saying? And in the summer, you kind of get to see what they're about. They're more relaxed in what they're doing. The managers here are pretty good. They get the whole scenario. In college, you're not only, and I used to tell people when I was at GW, my number one goal was to develop men so that when they went on into life, they could do things. And thank God, I mean, I just believed in that, and I mean, I had everybody, my graduation rate was 98%. I'd still like to find the one guy I missed, but they're now CEOs for companies. John Flaherty, who played in the big leagues, played for me, played 13 years in the big leagues, does Yes Network like you guys. We're still very close. And so, but on the Cape, it's a little different. It's baseball. It's just preparing them for baseball. You're using a wood bat for the first time, or using it all the time. And here, this is what we need to do. Pitchers learn how to pitch a little bit more, with their fastball, and do a little bit. So, but when we're in the draft room, those numbers come into play. And I was fortunate to have enough scouting directors that believed that I knew the league so well that we would always sneak a player now and then. Maybe a guy struggled in the spring and you kind of went, yeah. And then you'd bring up these Cape and I'd say, whoa. This guy's better than we think he is. And then you get a guy in that third, fourth, fifth, sixth round area, and all of a sudden he's knocking on the door playing in the big leagues. It's a very usable, tangible accounting of what they do as a player, if I'm making sense. So it's it's used in the draft constantly. The problem now is, I think you run that it's nobody's fault, but a lot of the coaches send their pitchers up just for short periods of times, as you guys know, and you don't see the good arms that you like to see these guys face. But at the same time, in our industry on the scouting side, if you get the right scouts, and it doesn't matter how old you are, but your experiences teach you a lot. So you can watch a guy take BP, play in the game, even though the pitcher may be a little bit softer than you would like to have it, you can figure out if they can play or not. You just have it's just things in the back of your head that you have. So it's really a big thing. People don't realize how big it is. And some of the teams that go straight analytics, I think it kind of hurts them because they don't have enough time to evaluate those analytics, where the real scouts can come in. I should say real scouts, but scouts that have veteran knowledge can come in and go, this guy's pretty good. This guy can hit a little bit more. And I hope that makes sense, but it's really used more than anybody can imagine. And this league is scouted all year long. It isn't just scouted. You guys see those guys come in from June. Well, now with the way the draft's set up, you see them come in June through July, and then usually around the end of July, you don't see as many. But trust me, there are that end of the month into the playoffs, teams are sending up special assignment guys, assistant GMs. They just don't, they don't get behind home plate, or they'll be off to the side. They don't want anybody to know they're even there, but they're there. And those are the guys that really make decisions. So yeah, it's kind of the way it works, but it's used. Trust me, it's really used.
Real scouts and fake scouts. You're making me think of Moneyball here. Although it was a real story, obviously.
Well, you know what? I don't want to get into that. I think I believe in analytics. I've grown to appreciate it. I think like anything, you can go over the top with it at times, and like it's baseball. People follow. So the game itself, you look at it, in some ways, it's kind of reverting back. Contact, less strikeouts. Where everyone thought home runs, and sometimes, and if you're with a good group, it all kind of blends together. You just use both. It's a tool, you know what I mean? But people forget that these guys are human beings. So when you see them at certain points in the year, you don't know if, and when these guys are 10-year veterans, or 8-year veterans, they can kind of, separate things. But when you get guys that are coming out of college and they broke up with their girlfriend, or family, unfortunately, is having a family issue or something, and you don't know that, and they're playing like crap, and you're like, what is wrong with his exit velo isn't as good as it used to be, or whatever, and you're going, well, he might have some other things on his mind, you know what I mean? And so that part of it, you have to, I think sometimes we get away from that. But at the same time, it's probably one of the biggest parts that you have. That's how you win championships with people. So,
well, I'm not going to question your ability to connect with people and to win championships, especially the fact that you brought one to Orleans back in the day. But now you're just going to make sure that whoever wins the championship this year in the Cape Cod Baseball League does it the right way. John Castleberry, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And good luck to you this season. I think we'll see you around.
Well, thank you guys. I'm sure I'll be talking to you about some things. So anything you guys may think of when I see you, or even before then, please pick up the phone. And if I can help, let me know.
Oh, you'll certainly help us. I think you'll help the entirety of the league, John. Thank you so much. This has been episode 1 of Eldredge Extra, alongside Dylan Pescatore and Foster Nicholas. I'm Ian Nicholas, and we'll see you next time.